Derek from North Brunswick, New Jersey hit us earlier and said, which college football fan base is a sleeping giant? As in, if their team was consistently good, the stadium atmosphere would be surprisingly electric and they'd be insufferable online. Now, I repackaged that question and I put it out there earlier and I just said, which fan base, if their team became elite, would be the most insufferable? Because to me, that was a more fun question. So Derek got us talking, and then I fanned the flames, and it turned into an inferno earlier today. And I had thousands upon thousands. I think we had over 10,000 replies on that, and when you combine it with quote tweets and all that. So Texas A&M won this thing by a mile. Texas A&M had thousands of replies in the affirmative, and you know what? I'm good. If Texas A&M ends up winning, I'm in. I am with them. I'm over there standing with them, and we're looking at the rest of you because I have carried the water for Texas A&M. Look, it's even maroon. This is the water I carry for A&M. It is maroon. That's not an accident. Well, actually, it kind of is, but it worked for the purposes of the segment tonight. I understand A&M as much as an outsider can understand A&M. What you guys think is weird and tacky and a little bit icky about A&M, I just love it. I've been out there several times for games. Love those folks. Hope Mike Elko kills it out there. But if you don't feel like I feel about A&M, oh, this is absolutely a slam dunk because those folks have been targeted a little bit more than most anonymous programs and most irrelevant programs have because they have, dare I say, or shall I say, some unique tradition and trappings around the program. And they have not forgotten. They've heard you. So you better believe it. You better believe it. I used to watch Double Dare when I was a wee tot, and they really took a lot of pride in putting pies in people's faces. Aggie pie. Don't know what it's made of? Lucha can send me the recipe later. Aggie pie in the face of the entire United States of America. The moment that they knock on the door of playoff status, the moment they win the SEC, oh yeah, oh, it's going to happen. And so, check. I agree with that one. Next up, Miami. Absolutely Miami. Derek asked which fan base would be the most insufferable and which stadium environment would be the most electric. Now, Hard Rock Stadium is like it's nothing to write home about on most Saturdays. The environment in Hard Rock Stadium is nothing to write home about on most Saturdays. But if Miami's elite, it wouldn't be most Saturdays anymore. In this world where Miami is a playoff contender, what would happen is you would go from tens of thousands in there on a great day to one of the hottest tickets in town. Same thing that happens with USC football. It's just in these places, you better be really good. You better be really good. If you don't believe me on that, I want you to go back to I can't remember what year it was, 17 or 18. It was one of the Mark Richt years. They played Notre Dame, smoked Notre Dame at home. Place was sold out, absolutely on fire. I mean, they still tell stories in our business, the broadcast crew that was there that night, they still tell stories about how it was like going to another planet because you're so unprepared for a Miami home game to feel like that. That's not the Orange Bowl anymore. They play in Hard Rock now. But it's possible. You just got to be really good for it to be possible. And secondly, I don't think I need to tell any of you. You know what? Maybe I do need to tell some of the younger generation what it's like when Miami is on top of college football, what it's like when Miami's in the conversation of being on top of college football. Those folks run their mouths like no other fan base in the country does. Again, I don't have a problem with it, but I'm not a Florida State fan or a Florida fan. I'm not a Clemson fan. I don't have to deal with them. I don't have to actually face them. I don't have to recruit against them. I just get to sit over here in my little lawn chair, and aside from Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, I just get to sit back in silence and watch. But I know, folks in South Florida know, I know. Here's the other thing that's, I think, a little underappreciated about Miami. You think Miami home game, and you think a lot of open seats. What you don't realize is it's the biggest sidewalk alumni base of pretty much any of the major programs out there. Now, we love sidewalk alumni at Pate State. I run a fictitious university. 100% of my alumni base is sidewalk alumni. That's translated to people who didn't go to the school but still root for the team. So all up and down the East Coast, from Miami to Charlotte to Roanoke, Virginia, to Washington, D.C., to Boston, to New York, to Philly. There are a lot of folks who are Miami fans. Some of them have never even been there before. Some of them have never been to a game. Most of them have never been to a game. But they're mid-30s to mid-40s. They grew up in an era where the U meant a lot. They now have disposable income, by the way. Miami moves the needle, man. Hey, it's not a bad thing they're playing Rutgers in this bowl game. Because there are a lot of folks in the New York, New Jersey area that are Miami fans because they don't have any other college football allegiance. So that Miami needle moves a little bit different than a typical, remote college football type program's needle moves. What about Michigan State? This one probably comes out of left field for most of you. Michigan State has about as uniquely active a Twitter base, a social media base, as any program out there. You don't see them featured a whole lot in the main spotlight of college football. Michigan's taken up a lot of the energy in their state right now, in their conference, and it's Michigan, Ohio State. The country does not get fixated on Michigan, Michigan State. As you could expect, they hate that. They despise it. And they just got Jonathan Smith as their new head coach, and if they ever reascend, like they briefly did a couple of years ago, yeah, they'd be over the top obnoxious. That dynamic's kind of like Auburn, Alabama. You got one program, Michigan and Alabama, that are big, like tier 1 national brands. Then you got another program whose brand is a lot more regional in nature, but they always know if we fulfill our obligation and if we maximize our potential, we're good enough to compete. And Auburn has shown that against Alabama, and Michigan has shown that, or Michigan State's shown that against Michigan, and the fan bases act accordingly. So yeah, and I've been up there when they beat Michigan, man. Yeah, stadium environment, check. I buy that. Obnoxious fan base online, if they went, check. I buy that. The one I don't buy, but so many of you suggested, is Tennessee. A lot of you said Tennessee. A lot of you said Tennessee folks are the most obnoxious, and if they ever become a legit national championship contender, this would be insufferable. I may have to take a break from the sport. And I just don't think I'm in a good enough position to talk about this. I don't think it's fair. For example, I'm going to tell the story one more time, aren't I, Colin? Yeah. I participated in such activities as carrying a goalpost out of Neyland Stadium last year. I participated in taking video of chunks of sod that were pulled right up out of the ground when we went back in the stadium after the Bama game to do our post-game hit on CBS. I love Tennessee. I love it over there. I didn't grow up here. I grew up down in Georgia. Everybody down there hates Tennessee. Even the folks across the river hate Tennessee. Well, I got no problem with Tennessee. I am not a huge fan of the song Rocky Top, and I've warned you guys that whenever they do emerge back on the national scene, and that song is constantly blasted into the college football public's ear, there are a lot of people who are indifferent on Tennessee that will grow to hate them just because of how consistently they play that song, which again is not in my top 50 either. So like Rocky Top can be an assault on the senses when Tennessee's good. But I just don't feel the way about them that you guys do. A lot of you had a lot of animosity in your hearts when you typed this earlier today. I know because some of the corresponding language that you included with Tennessee is not fit for air. It's a family-friendly show. And those were not family-friendly replies. Now this last one here, this one came out of nowhere. You could have given me like 20 guesses. I would not have mentioned this program. So again, we're looking for fan base that would be totally obnoxious, stadium environment that would be surprisingly elite if the team was in the national scene. Maryland? But the more I dug, the more I saw people mention Maryland. So I got to go word of mouth on this. I have it on semi-good authority that back when Maryland was good and they were still in the ACC, their folks were some of the most insufferable to deal with in the Frisian era. They were some of the most insufferable to deal with in the entire conference. I have no idea if this is true. Okay, back then, my only interaction with Maryland football was the dude in Wedding Crashers who yelled, "Crab cakes in football, that's what Maryland does." That's it. That's all I knew about Maryland. And our buddy Tani, who used to work here. Those are the only things I know about Maryland. But apparently, some of you in the past were rubbed the wrong way, and the last thing you want in this world is Maryland to reemerge as a national player. So I don't know if I can take your word for it, but that's all I have to go on, because Maryland was mentioned like 20 times, and I thought, do they get we're talking about football? Like, I don't know where this is coming from. So, I mean, in the name of Scott Van Pelt, I'm moving on. I'm not going to dunk on a Terp that I've never met before. I can't do that.